Let's talk about Jalen Green, who went number 2 in this draft. It's not been great. They're 2-20 when he plays. They're 8-7 when he doesn't play. He's averaging 15 points up until last night's 12-point outing in his 4 games since he returned from a hamstring injury. And I believe he had a quick COVID absence, maybe while he was recovering from the hamstring injury, something like that. I think it was a hamstring, by the way. Don't quote me on that necessarily.
Yep.
Yeah. He had averaged 22 a game in his first 4 games back. So that's good. I also want to give him some benefit of the doubt because he's playing next to a very similar player in Kevin Porter, who has very, very similar weaknesses to him that are only exacerbated because Kevin plays at an even wilder pace. Like Kevin Porter is like one of the least winning players in the NBA right now. I totally understand the upside, and Houston is not a winning team right now, so they're rebuilding. They should give him some leeway to work through his game a little bit. I'm not blaming them by any stretch. I just also think it's worth noting that like Kevin Porter is inefficient, doesn't defend, doesn't shoot right now. Like it's hard, I think, for Jalen Green whenever he's paired with that as his lead guard. It also like he does a lot of that stuff too, though. Like he takes a lot of inefficient shots. He doesn't really pass the ball well. He's not a defender at all right now. But that team just has like no chance defensively because Kevin Porter is often their guy at the point of attack. Christian Wood, like his effort is abysmal half the time. Like it's they Alper and Şengün is out there for 20 minutes a night, and Şengün's really bad defensively as much as we like him. They don't really have a chance defensively right now. Jalen Green plays a role in that, let's say.
Yeah, man. you were burying me and just trying to get me to crawl out slowly.
I'm trying to be the
no. It was Frank. It was Frank. It was honest.
Person, right?
Role reversal.
He's had some great flashes. I want to give you the opportunity to talk positively about him.
He's been up and down. He was a volume guy, lowish percentage shooter in high school. He got better with USA basketball. I thought he got better with the G League Ignite, and especially better once the G League bubble was over. He has taken more threes than twos, and it feels like the default for him is kind of one of those like off-balance leading threes. The flashes have been there. I mean, the game I watched, I think before the injury, he played the Bulls. He ripped it off the rim and like floated coast to coast, like by 6 guys and just dunked. And that's the appeal of who he is as a player. I still believe in the self-creation. I want the creation to lead to some easier, cleaner looks for himself at times, which you've kind of alluded to. He's been a lot better since he was out for a month. If we record this podcast 2 weeks ago, we'd say, yeah, I don't know. But you could see the growth. So maybe watch some film. Maybe he just talked to the right coaches, got in the gym and said, this is what I got to do better. I talked to an NBA scout when prepping for this pod because I'm not as in tuned and ingrained in the NBA stuff, and just asked his takes on a couple things. And what he did remind me of, which is good and kind of grounded me some, is that sometimes these athletic wings take time. I mean, we comped him to Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine averaged 10 points per game as a rookie and didn't average 20 points per game until his 4th year in the NBA. That same kind of trajectory goes for Brad Beal. It took him 5 years to average 20 points per game. I'm not quitting on Jalen Green. It's going to be ugly. He's going to take some lumps. It's not necessarily the best makeup roster-wise for him right now with Kevin Porter, and just it's not ideal for kind of where he needs to be. But we can't write the kid off yet after whatever 30, 35 games. Like it's gonna be a slow burn, and he could be a guy in 3 weeks. We say, hey, he's a lot better, or 3 years. We say, hey, he's gotten a lot better year by year. It's just taken longer than maybe we anticipated. I did, as like the plug and play. He was in the G League, so kind of already in the NBA for 20 games. He should be ready to go. It's just it hasn't been as much of a light switch turn.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I did not expect Jalen Green to be an effective NBA player this year just because of the nature of his game, right? Yeah. Like these guys struggle early on in their careers. One thing that I think we often don't talk about in that regard, when we talk about guys improving their shooting, we often talk about the players like Scotty Barnes, right? Who go from being like non-shooters, terrible shooters, to being like competent shooters, or in Scotty's case, like he's turning into something maybe even beyond that. We often start with like the low end of shooters getting into being solid shooters, right? The same goes for guys like Jalen Green who enter with a like reasonable shooting background, right?
Mhm.
Like Jalen Green can shoot. And those guys, similarly to the other guys, they get better as shooters throughout the course of their careers. They do. And it's really hard to play at the pace and at the style that Jalen Green likes to play at in the NBA. You can't just be an okay shooter and do that. You have to be an utterly elite shooter to play at that style and be effective consistently night in, night out in the NBA. And I think Jalen Green is learning that. And I think that he'll come back next year, the year after that, and he'll have improved even further as a pull up jump shooter. And some of the inefficiency that we're talking about in terms of what is currently poor shot selection might not be as bad when he's 23 years old. So, yeah, I'm not worried about Jalen Green at all long term. He hasn't been very good so far, and that's okay. Like it's totally fine.
Yeah, hold on to the lottery ticket. We're not done here yet. But if he's taking as many threes, more threes than twos, got to hit some threes. That's all.